Good afternoon and welcome to Thursday Thought. Well, working in a downtown church such as Riverwalk has, as most vocations do, its ups and downs. The work is interesting, at times demanding, and often makes necessary a sudden shift in priorities as the day unfolds. Well, as I entered the building this morning, I thought of things that needed to be done or checked on that I knew about anyway. One of those things was the rearranging of tables and chairs to accommodate the weekly Thursday morning Bible class that began at 10:30 today. Now that class uses a room that's also used by several other groups during the week and needs to be reset for the class. Most of the people who attend that class are older folks, and many are no longer able to move the tables and chairs into place as needed, so the staff tries to get that done for them. Well, I decided to check on that a little bit later as I entered the building, and I went on over and opened up the office area. As I entered my office, I noticed the notes and papers from last evening's missions committee meeting, which reminded me that I needed to do a couple of things regarding decisions that were made in committee. Now, I'm a member of that committee, and I was here last evening for the meeting, so I determined to handle those things also a little bit later and logged into my laptop to check email. Well, there was nothing of any great magnitude in the email. However, I did reply to a couple of those emails, cleaned up my inbox some. Linda, our office manager, came into the office at about that time. I was happy to see her, as she is the first contact for phone calls and people at the door. I knew then that I no longer had to watch those two places, and I could get on with some other work that I needed to have done. Well, as I was going to rearrange the chairs and tables for the Bible study that I mentioned a little bit earlier, I ran into CJ, our youth minister. He was coming from that classroom area where the Bible class meets, so I asked him about arranging the chairs. He said he had already done that, so that had been taken care of. I went back into the office. Shortly after I came back to the office, I was told that the ice maker in the kitchen wasn't working. And we've had it serviced several times in the last few months, and I no longer really am sure what to do with it. New ones are so terribly expensive, but so are service calls. I haven't called the repairman yet. I'll probably do that a little bit later as well. Now, there was enough ice in the machine for lunch that was going to be served at noon today, so I just kind of let that go. One of the people who came to the Bible class on Thursday mornings came into my office right before the class and said that the lights were too bright in the classroom. We had recently replaced the old fluorescent lighting with those new LED panel lights, which that indeed does make the room brighter. She said the lights were dimmable and wanted to know where the dimmer was. Well, we know they're dimmable, but we did not install those dimming capabilities for those fixtures. So I told her that they were what they were. We had received no other complaints on the brightness of the new fixtures, so I'm presuming that it was just her preference not to have them quite so bright. Well, I completed the tasks that were given to me by the missions committee the night before by writing a check to send to someone that we support in missions, and also sending an email to another ministry that we support asking for some information that the committee had wanted. That didn't take long, but it did take a little bookkeeping for the check. Well, by this time, the Bible class was ready to begin. Now, my wife and I had invited a friend who normally doesn't attend our church to the Thursday morning Bible class a few weeks ago, and she actually came last week and promised to come again this week. I went into the classroom to see if she was there yet. She was, and I made it a point to greet her. I then took some time to visit with Linda in the office about some things that needed to have discussion with her. I filed some paperwork on the fire sprinkler system inspection that we recently had completed. I checked email again, answered a couple of more of them, made 2 appointments for this afternoon, and got some water to bring to my desk. Finally, an older gentleman came to the door, and he asked to speak to a pastor or assistant pastor. Well, since I was the only one in the office, it came to me to visit with him. He wanted to know if all churches of Christ were the same and what our general tenets were. Now, he didn't ask those questions specifically, but That was really the information that he was desiring. So I visited with him and I answered his questions as best I could, kind of off the cuff. He was satisfied, it seems, with the responses, and he asked about our worship services. I told him about that and kind of what we did and how we did things, and he seemed satisfied and he departed. Well, in between all of this that I've been telling you about, I managed to check my email some more. I managed to take a quick tour of the building interior just to be sure that things looked okay for Sunday. Answered my cell phone a couple of times, got some refreshment, took care of some additional paperwork. I also started writing on this Thursday thought. Well, it's now after lunch, and I've not yet had the time to open a book to read, or to study for an upcoming class that I'll be teaching, or engage in some kind of deliberate prayer meditation. Hopefully, some of that will come this afternoon as I await a 3:30 appointment. Well, I tell you all of this to say that this kind of a day is not at all unusual for me. What may be a little unusual about the day is that I haven't yet seen anyone who has a benevolence need. Now, there aren't many days that pass that I don't have at least one phone call or one person come to the door who has some kind of a need for benevolence. However, the day's not over yet. I trust your day is a good one in which you walk with God, whatever your vocation, whatever your circumstance or situation in life. Sandi Patty once wrote a song some time ago called "The Stage is Bare," which speaks of daily life and living when there are no crowds, no one to sing to, no one applauding what you do. Speaking to God in the song, one of the lyric lines reads, and I quote, "Tomorrow's such a daily day, and I so need to feel you then, holding my hand." Well, most days are daily days for most of us. May your daily days be filled with the presence and love of God. Blessings.